Alright, so I'm tired as heck. I wish I didn't email Diger because then Diger wouldn't ask me to do GitHub, then I wouldn't have to tell him that I don't know how to do Git and I'm not ready, and then I wouldn't have realized just how much work it would be for me to. The guy has done a ton of work. He's done a lot of work. A lot of work. And I'm worn out, and I haven't even started making patches. And I don't know if I'm going to have the energy to do it. I keep going through these funks in and out. I'll stop. I think I'm going to stop. And then I'll try it again. You know, and then whenever I actually think about the circumstances, I tell myself, this is crazy, and I'm not going to go on. But when I look at one thing at a time, I think, well, maybe I could get that thing to compile, or maybe I can get that thing to compile. Or, okay, well, that didn't compile, I'll just try this other thing. But the one thing that remains the same is that I have a very big issue. And that issue is that, well, a number of issues. Number one, Cairo isn't building because this is the fundamental problem with Haiku. Yeah, you could, if you wanted to hand build stuff, you could. And you could put those things in the boot home non-packaged directory and put stuff in the bin directory and put stuff in the library directory. But guess what? You can't build against any of those frickin' headers that you've made. So you have to actually build in parallel with either something that's already been made in Haikuporter or with Haiku Depot. You literally have to do that because you can't actually, in some of these, you can't actually have the headers. There's only one set of headers. And of course, it's read-only, so you can't put the headers that you just made in your own hand compile onto the headers that are in the. So basically, what hasn't been spelled out, but what the effect of the whole thing is that the people that have made Haiku and put the package manager have basically demanded or imposed a restriction upon every Haiku user that's out there that if they're going to develop, they have to use Haikuporter. They have to. That isn't completely true, but it is true for the most part. So you can override the specs, and I've done that. But it doesn't work in every case. And in the case of Cairo, when I override the specs, it doesn't know how to handle at least the command line option I'm passing through from make.conf down to the compiler. There's just a handful of these apps that can't handle the command line option for using a different set of specs as I've specified. At least the way I do it. There may be a way to do it, and using the include directory doesn't cut it. I mean, this has to be an absolute override of the specs, not just some subordination or some additional include directory. We're talking an absolute override. Because two things happen. Number one, there actually are times when code tries to compile and it does actually read the headers from all the paths that we have included, all 15 or 20 of them. And if the files are named the same, the compiler reads the variables from all those filers, and I'll get errors that say this function has already been previously declared in a different way in the BSD header. So it has nothing to do with the order in which it's read. it still reads it. Those errors are rare, but they're part of an actual non-solution set. So if you're trying to compile an app that needs to read one of the headers that are duplicated between the POSIX and the BSD system and that are using the same function, and so there's an inconsistency in the way that's been declared between the two, and I know there is one because I've seen the error message, and no, I'm going to hunt it down right now because I've already put a lot of time into this shit. So that's one case. Too bad. If there's a function that's declared that appears in both of those headers, well, you're just fucked. It's just not going to work if you don't override the specs. If you happen to be able to override the specs, and for whatever reason that makefile is able to handle it, then and I'm sure there's probably an answer that I could eventually find out. But it was hard enough to figure out and learn how to do the specs in the first fucking place. And so now I need another situation. Now I need some other fucking setting. I get this is a headache. So if and when and until I find another set of specs to use, if I have glib 1 and 2 built in package source and it isn't built over in Haikuports or Haikuporter, and the package selection in Haikuporter, Haikudepot is very sparse, and there's broken recipes over on Haikuports that these things don't. And why the fuck would I have to? Why the fuck would I have to, just so I could put a header on a part of a system I should have write access to anyway? Why the fuck do I have to do things twice now? You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Just to get, you know, the only reason why, the way it works is GCC is set up to look in certain directories for headers, and headers constitute a part of the code that you're trying to compile. If there's an include statement on the top of it, it'll go to read the header. Okay. So if I'm trying to build a package that depends on something that's further down the road than something that's either available inside of Haikudepot or has been built by myself inside of Haikuporter, it's not going to be able to read those headers. You're just screwed. You know, you have to figure out how to get the compiler to actually read these other headers. Yeah, you can do the include directory thing, but even with that, sometimes not every configure script and makefile uses the same incantation include directory or will accept the same incantation. I've seen the GCC settings. I know there's an include directory setting. And sometimes you use different compilers than just the plain old GCC3, or maybe they're using the ACs and not the configure script, or whatever. So there's enough variety out there. Basically, Cairo is in the area of it has the perfect matrix of failure. So I can't get past that. Okay. Well, what am I complaining about? My complaint is not that it's just me that can't do this stuff, or me that doesn't want to write a recipe for every package I want to compile that I would have been able to just fly through in the first place. It's that we're actually strangling our own operating system by not giving people write access to their own frickin' include directory. Now, in general, and then if I look at the patches that are out there, in general, we're slowly but surely falling behind. on some of them. So the patches that we do have, we just don't have enough workforce. What am I saying? I'm saying that for us to keep up with those patches, we want guys of my skill level, or, I'm not a high skill level person with writing packages. But we want people of my skill level that could probably manage to build some things, and could manage to apply a patch, and could manage to make a patch, but aren't coders, to actually be able to help out in the effort, because it's such a fucking large collection of packages. But we're not doing that. Instead, we're trying to say, well, everybody's got to use Haikuporter, and everybody's got to make a recipe if they want to build anything, and everybody's got to build stuff in parallel if you want to do anything by hand, otherwise, on you. And oh yeah, we've also, there are times when if you do build something with Haikuporter, there's been a few times where LiveTool will look at the library that's in Haikuporter and say, sorry, that's not a valid LiveTool archive. Oh, what? Am I supposed to know what the secret patch was for LiveTool? And there's a lot of recipes out there that aren't really patched, that in the newer versions they need patches, but we haven't got there yet to try them. Or we had a patch, but now we're going to have to rework because the code's kind of evolved, and I've seen that. And I've seen some cases where, at least at my skill level, I can't get past it. There are people that are obviously above my skill level, but it's a small group of people that have limited amounts of time and have other things to do with their lives. They're going to have some incremental work to do to catch up with the regular stuff. Basically, my platform is, or my little disk image here, has new stuff compiled up to the point to where you try to do anything that's worthwhile. That is x.org. It's not, I can't get past live PCI access. Cairo, no. Pango, probably not. The Qt4 libraries, unfortunately, Diger's patches don't, they just won't apply. There's like 15, or I don't know, I don't know the exact number, but there's more than 4 patches that don't cleanly patch in. So I can't even go that route. It's a dead end. So if I had a lot of time in my hands to break through that, I might, but then I'd still remember to myself I have no sound. And on my system, or at least with package source, when I try to build SDL, which all the emulators want, they have eSound. And then when it doesn't matter what option I pick for eSound, whether it's arts, whether it's anything. eSound says it can't find the arts headers, and when I try to build arts, it wants the Qt3 libraries. So we're just back in one big giant circle of impossibility. So it would take me hours. Hours to manually apply. There's Dyer worked really hard on those patches. So what's I need to make clear is I'm complaining about the circumstance Haiku is in, not the effort that people put in. Those are two separate things, and it's hard to separate those things out. Anyway, so I'd have to probably manually apply 20 or 30. There's a lot of patches in there, and then see if it built. Looks like, and then I just have the Qt libraries, and then I still don't know how things are going to work into all that. And I still don't, that's Qt4, but Arts wants Qt3, so it's like, oh, how the fuck did anybody get any sound to work in this thing? No one seems to want to talk much about anything. Even the guys over at Haiku, where it's like I get one response, and it's like, well, why don't you use the Haikuporter? Yeah, okay. I'm not it's already hard enough just to see if these things will build. Now I gotta make a fucking recipe for thousands of things. I'm not up for that. Physically, mentally, it's just too much work. It already is enough work doing this, being able to cheat the way I am. I mean, if I use Haikuporter, I lose the ability to set up math library. I lose the ability to inject the library network. All sorts of features I lose out on, and then I gotta remake the recipes. This is already too much, having all the recipes already made for me. It really literally would be easier for me to manually copy down all the headers from glib2 to make up for the fact that someone decided they wanted to make the hard, but they're still, both of those are just too much, too difficult. My opinion right now is Haiku probably needs about I would say $500,000 of of salaries to pay to skilled people, probably within 2 years to get it to be fairly good up to the level that BOS was. And I mean that's on the cheap. I mean that's really on the cheap. We're talking 4 or 5 people working full fucking time that are fully skilled and very experienced at porting apps to get things back to the way they were when the B was in operation. And that's just the way I see it. And right now we certainly are making it much more difficult, much more expensive for our users. So the list of things that not only don't compile but also block other apps from compiling has grown. And I'm sorry, I don't want to have to. This probably would represent a month of 4 to 5 hours a day to see whether I get lucky, because I'm not a programmer. I probably won't get lucky. Basically, this to me is 50 opportunities for me to screw up permanently. I think I already have screwed up permanently. That is, say I'm at a point where I know I can't do anything significant. I literally know I can't. I literally know I do not have the skill to get Cairo to build. I literally know I do not have the skill to get the Qt4 libraries to build, or Diger's patches to apply. Or it isn't anything that, I'm sorry, I don't feel like walking to New York. I happen to live in San Francisco, and stuff like that, just crazy things like that. That's about the kind of level of work. So I've got I don't even think anybody even cares that there's 4,800 apps here. Oh well, okay. I mean, I got no one. I know there's people that go to Haikuware that have built stuff in the past. They probably might have some suggestions as to what to do about the symptoms I'm seeing, but instead I get nothing. I mean, no one even responds. With anything that's just like any kind of hint or anything. Maybe we're all in the same place. Who knows? But yeah, the shit's broken. The project is looking pointless. We're not going to raise $500,000, and no one wants to be put in a position to have to work this ridiculously and stupidly hard to have people come back and, the people that were able to make the choices in the operating system and say things like, well, isn't it obvious we haven't made that hair yet? Or, oh, it's true that we make people use the Haikuporter when they build their apps. Fuck them. Who needs it? So, that's it. The old BOS doesn't really run in the newer hardware. This newer BOS is more of a curiosity than anything. So I've given it my try to my heart's content. I've gone way beyond what most any normal person would try to do. Because the truth is, I'd actually want this to work, and it's not working, and I know. I'm pretty sure, at least in my own mind, I'm pretty sure as to why it's come to this. And there's no indication from anybody in the project that they're going to change anything. And I guess that's fine. So if we want to kill the Haiku, we did a very good job. The BOS, we've done a good job of it. We've taken it down that path. If anybody else wants to revive it, they can. The things to do is to get rid of that package management system. Number one. That's the biggest threat to the future of anybody using a BOS type operating system. And the reason why it's a threat is because it makes it near impossible. It makes it unrealistically difficult. Too much work to have to do to make apps that people want to use. And people end up really not getting much farther than I have because they know they can see just how much more work they have to do, and they don't feel like doing it. And it isn't a simple matter of not feeling like turning in your library book on time or paying your bill on time. It's the matter of wanting to actually have a life. We don't have enough coordination. We don't have enough volunteers. But we actually have leaders in this. I hate to say it, they're very skilled, very smart people. I think they feel they're doing the right thing, but they are actually killing this project. I don't see the point. And the swan song has already been sung. Most everybody's had their complaints, and somehow the project leaders feel good when people go away. And no one's saying anything, and IRC is silent, and the mailing list is silent. But an OS that had a lot of promise is turned to nothing. So I may come back and make more of these videos. But right now it's just like, oh my god, forget this. So yeah, I did get box to build, and I have a DOS-CMU build outside of package source, but yeah. And if I had a better way to integrate sound, I might do it. Or I might just start doing stuff by hand. I just don't know. But right now I'm just exhausted from this, and it's tremendously annoying to see there are people that are in a position to actually help other people. You know, the project leaders are in a position to have made different choices, and especially that package manager, they really fucked us over. They really fucked the entire community over. You know, unless this little group is willing to do all the packaging themselves, and I don't think they are. And they have a rude awakening ahead of them if they think they get everything patched, because they don't. It's not going to be that way. It's not going to work that way. There's too much to do just even to build something like Firefox. So that's it. That's my spiel. I'm done for now, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. I'll probably be back. I'm probably going to keep trying, and I'll probably have a few neat things I'll discover, and who knows, maybe in a year or 10 years, or maybe when I'm an old man, you know, with wrinkles on my face and no more hair and gray and balding, I'll say, I did it, I got Firefox. Ah. God damn it, I did it. But until that day happens, someday I may just disappear. And, who knows? I don't know what's gonna happen or whatever. I'm just an example of one person, right? If I were better at compiling, maybe then you ought to. I'm not good enough of a compiler for anybody to really be concerned that I'm going to stop doing this. But I am the representative sample of the kind of workforce that Haiku really needs at this stage. Truthfully, we need about 50 of me versus 4 skilled people. And that's it.